All right, welcome to another IAEI News Live. My name is Thomas Dimitrovich, and I'm dialing in from the road. This is this is a recorded session. I am going to be teaching a class tomorrow. So, what I want to do is take a look at the results of the certified amending motions that were voted on last Thursday and Friday in Las Vegas at the NFPA Annual Meeting. Let's talk CAMs and results and next steps. And it all starts now. All right, so a little bit of a glare. So, welcome back. I'm navigating over to my folder for the certified amending motions. I managed to get back. I got back. We finished up Friday. Oh man, what time? It was before lunch. Finished up Friday before lunch. I managed to get a flight home direct from Las Vegas to Pittsburgh, but I didn't get to the house until 3 a.m. What a trip. But we did it. We got home and everything was copacetic. Now, what I want to do is take a look at the certified amending motions. If you recall, we talked last week. We said what they were, and we sort of walked down through as many as I could get to. But what I want to do is at least get, by the end of this video, I want you to know everything that has passed. I guess it's the meeting of the annual meeting technical session, which would be the floor vote, right? So the way they did the floor vote this year is a little frustrating. Technology was not working for NFPA, that's for sure. They gave everybody these little clickers. I hope they didn't spend any money on them because they did not use them. We did standing votes. So those they would call who's in favor of the certified amending motion as the language that's seen on the screen, and everybody would stand that wanted to support it. And then they would say those against, and then everybody would stand, and they had to physically count everyone. It was frustrating. So, but in any case, we got through it. We got through all of the certified amending motions starting Thursday, and we ended up, it was about a half day on Friday, less than a half day on Friday. So what I want to do is now I am going to cover these in order that they were voted on, and I'm just going to take a look at the NEC, the NFPA 70 certified amending motions. The first one that was called up was 70-91. 70-91. This was Richard Holub from DuPont Company. What he wanted to do was, so there's a change in 110.26. Spaces about electrical equipment. And the change one of the key changes that they made in this section was they added language at the very end of it. When such doors are or can be opened 90 degrees. What that does is it limits options. So if you think about doors on electrical equipment, some doors can go past 90 degrees. Some doors can be removed. What this says is, regardless of whether or not that door can be opened 180 degrees or 110 degrees, 120 degrees, or if a door can be completely removed or is designed to be completely removed when you work on it, if the door can be opened to a 90-degree angle, then that is where you take the distance, because you need egress. It's not about working space, it's about egress. You can't restrict or impede egress from a work area. So it says access or egress is impeded if one or more simultaneously opened equipment doors restrict working space access to be less than 24 inches wide and 6.5 feet high. So they added that language, when such doors are or can be opened to 90 degrees. And that certified amending motion failed. I can't give you counts. I know it was overwhelmingly supported, against that CAM. I can't give you counts. There's only one that I can give you an actual difference, because it was within 6 votes. And I'll tell you which one that was here shortly. But the first one failed. Now, if it fails at the floor, then it's done. There is no more 110.26 considerations at all for that certified amending motion. All right, so 70-91 failed. 70-61. Now let's go to 70-61. 70-61 is from Mark Hilbert. This was a good one because, 70-61. Yeah, this was an interesting one. It was a really good observation of Mark. He can be really sharp as a tack, that guy. So what they did here was they said each disconnecting means, tell you I'm tired. I'm still getting back on East Coast time. It says each disconnecting means in other than 1 or 2 family dwellings shall be legibly marked to indicate its purpose and circuit source unless located and arranged so the purpose and source is evident. What they did by modifying this section to that language, they removed the requirement to mark a disconnecting means to indicate its purpose in a dwelling unit. So Mark's proposal sends it back to the 2023 edition, which includes a piece of language that the reason this all changed is because there were those who did not like the addition of and location. So if I have, it says, what it says is, in other than 1 or 2 family dwellings, the marking shall include the identification and location of the circuit source. So there were those for those applications that did not want to mark the location. So they're going to have to now. And it is what it is. But that was what the code panel was originally seeking to do. But they failed that because they ended up mistakenly removing the requirement to label a disconnecting means in a dwelling unit. This certified amending motion was overwhelmingly supported and it was passed. Now, let's talk about next steps for this one. The motion that was made said to reject the second revision number 7626 and any related first revisions and first correlating revisions. What that does is it sends it all the ways back to the 2023 code, which means it does not have to go back to the code making panel. It is the success or failure of this certified amending motion at the floor of the annual meeting is the end of the discussion. So this does not have to go back to the code making panel. It will be approved by the Standards Council. Then we have, so that's 70-61. Then we have 70-87. 70-87 was on 120.13, which was a desire to increase the VA per square foot for dwelling unit branch circuit loads. The certified amending motion wanted to increase the 3 VA per square foot to 4 VA per square foot for calculating the minimum branch circuits required. What that effectively would do would increase the number of branch circuits in a home, but quite frankly, in my opinion, probably in many people's opinions, the minimum number, we probably put more branch circuits in a dwelling unit, way more than what the minimum required is for a dwelling unit, just because of how things get broken up. So how much of a significance that this will add to the code? Probably more so for tests than anything else. But it did pass it passed the floor vote. Now, what this did, though, is it wants to accept public comment number 1854. Now, because it's a public comment, and it wants to add something into the code, it's going to have to go back to the code making panel for a vote. So even though it passed the floor, it's got to get through one more layer before it gets to Standards Council. All right, let's go to the next one. 70-107. 70-107. And what I'm doing is I'm searching I'm looking at the PDF that you can download from the NFPA website. I would encourage you to do that. www.nfpa.org/next. You should be able to navigate down there to get to the certified amending motions. Download a PDF and you'll see all of the information. So 70-107 wanted to add an exception number 5, which basically says GFCI protection shall not be required for a single receptacle dedicated to serving an HVAC condensate pump. The receptacle shall be labeled not GFCI protected, and other GFCI receptacle and another GFCI receptacle shall be located within 3 feet from the unprotected dedicated outlet. Any receptacles installed under this exception shall not be considered as meeting the requirements of 210.52C and G. That did not pass the floor, not one bit. Code Panel 2 reviewed this as a public comment, I believe. I'll tell you in a second. I'm going to maximize this so I can just go boop, and there it is. The motion that was made was to accept public comment number 1817. It did not pass. In fact, there was evidence from the floor that was read that basically there's manufacturer's instructions for these products that say to put it on a GFCI. There are other manufacturer's instructions. I believe I found one that says connect to a circuit equipped with a ground fault circuit interrupter if required by code. Nowhere it was their compatibility issues, and quite frankly, these pumps in these applications, there's not going to be a variable frequency drive on these little pumps because they only operate when they need to address condensate that's built up in a pan. So it's not all the time. Not a good target for energy reduction by adding expensive drive technology to these pumps. They're typically relatively inexpensive, and at least that's what I've seen. But needless to say, it failed, and that will not see any more further input. 70-130 is another one, and 70-130 also failed. Whoops, a daisy. 70-130. And that one, boom, 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 boom. 70-130 failed, and I got to get to the PDF. This one wanted to extend the date for GFCI. GFCI protection shall not be required for listed HVAC equipment. The exception shall expire September 1st, 2029. That did not pass. And quite frankly, some of the arguments that were used were the fact that there are multiple options available. There's the HF GFCI, the special purpose. Hold on. No, not the special purpose. So this is 210.8F, the special purpose, and the HF edition type special purpose. So you've got a GFCI, an HF type GFCI, a type or a special Class C special purpose GFCI, and the HF Class C GFCI. So special purpose GFCI. So you have 4 options, and I think that's what, at the end of the day, that's what convinced most people to not support it. The next one was 70-160. Let's see what that one is. 70-160. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, we wanted to do the same thing. GFCI protection shall not be required for listed HVAC equipment. These were all bundled. So 160 and 130 both were considered the same, and they both failed. So they were lumped together because they wanted to do the same thing. The next ones that were lumped together is 70-83 and 89. 70-83 and 89, what it wanted to do was add arc fault circuit interrupter protection for bathroom lighting circuits. 70-83 and 89 for 210.12b, it passed the floor, and man, overwhelmingly so. There is a large support for the inclusion of arc fault circuit interrupter technology. It's interesting. And very pleasing. I'm happy to see that there was a lot of support for ground fault circuit interrupter protection, shock protection, and arc fault protection, as well as disconnects for electric vehicle charging equipment. So this crowd is very safety oriented, and that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Primarily because I was on the right side of these cams, so that might be the one reason why I feel good about it, but you may feel just the opposite. I don't know. It depends upon where your head's at with regard to these certified amending motions. So 70-83 and 89 both passed from the floor. Now, these are except committee comment number 7738, and that because of it wants to add into the code, and because it's a committee comment, it'll have to go back to the committee, and we'll have to vote on it there, and that'll go back to Code Making Panel 2. All right, so 70-83 and 89 passed, and then the next two are 70-84 and 70-88. Both of those passed, and that was to add attics to the list of locations in a dwelling unit that we need AFCI protection. So 210.8b, it was an accept, the motion was to accept the committee comment number 7743. Originally submitted as accept public comment number 1681. So in any case, both of these camps are exactly the same, and both of them overwhelmingly supported. So that's 70-84 and 70-88 on 210.12b. The next one was 70-79. 70-79 failed. This is on 215.18. 70-79. What was this one? 70-79. Dan Book from the National Association of Home Builders wanted to limit in 215, Article 215, limit surge to only dwelling units of multifamily dwelling buildings. So that would exclude, So that would exclude dwelling units, single and 1 and 2 family dwelling units, because I believe multifamily buildings are different. All right, so they wanted to, basically their goal was to get it out of dwelling units, just a single family home. And it failed. It was not accepted by the floor, so that one died. DOA, dead on arrival. All right, so the next one, so these next two were removed, were pulled. These were on 210.52, and these were Peter Grazier. Looking to accept public comment numbers 218 and 193. He pulled those, and everybody clapped. Less work to do from the floor. So both of those were removed. The next ones, the next two grouped together, 70-105 and 70-106. 70-106. Oh, it passed. So 70-106 passed. It was to accept. So let's take a look. It was on 310.5a. 70-106. 70-106. How do you say zero in Spanish? Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. I get all of those, but what's zero? Anyway, what this wants to do was to accept public comment 1395. So this has to go back to the committee. And it says minimum, and this one was the one that passed by 6 votes. That is it. When people stood up, they counted, they sat down, the noes stood up, and then they said, okay, this is way too close to call. So then they had them vote again, and they counted heads, and it passed by 6 votes. That's how split everybody is on this one. 310.5a, minimum size conductors. The minimum size conductors for voltage ratings up to and including 2,000 volts shall be a number 14, it used to be 16, copper, and a 12 copper-clad aluminum, which used to be a 14 copper-clad aluminum. So that basically limits the smallest conductor that you can have, and that passed, and then Crystal Hunter from Cerro Wire pulled 105, so it was not voted on, and that was a change in table 310.16. So the minimum size conductor, it passed from the floor, but it's got to go back to the code panel, and in my opinion, the chances of it passing the code panel are probably going to be slim, but you never know. It's not very convincing to go back to the code panel and say, hey, this passed by 6 votes from the floor. That if I was the code panel, I would be like, well, that's not overwhelmingly supported like a lot of these other ones were. But in any case, that will have to go back to the code panel. It passed at the floor. 70-105 was removed. That's the one to 310.16. Then you had 70-129. 70-129, and this one wanted to So this is the medium voltage one. This is in 315.2 listing requirements for terminations. Type MV cables, MV cable joints, MV cable termination connectors, etc. It said that it shall be listed, and the listing requirements for type MV cable joints, cable terminations, and connectors. It had an effective date of January 1st, 2029. The committee said no, push it out to 2032, and the primary reason there is because it's not that they don't want to list it, it's just going to take time in the lab. So that's the challenge with medium voltage. Medium voltage is not like low voltage. Medium voltage is challenging just because there's not as many labs available. So that was CAM 70-129. It passed. 70-85. 70-85. Let's do what this does. This was Randy Dalla from representing the American Circuit Breaker Manufacturers Association. Ooh, this was a good one. I spoke on this one personally, and to represent my company. 210.8D is specific appliances. What panel 2 did was removed the list of appliances, and the panel 2, what code panel 2 did that, saying, well, we expect them to be located in 422.5. Well, they weren't added to 422.5. So that means electric ranges, wall-mounted ovens, counter-mounted cooking units, clothes dryers, and microwave ovens were removed from being required to have GFCI protection, whether they are hardwired or cord and plug connected. And the floor, I got goosebumps on this one. I really did. When I stood up to support this CAM and I turned around, it was amazing of how many people supported it. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. So what this will do is it takes it back to, it says reject second revision number 7617. So it'll have to be balloted again by the code panel. Crap. I thought the way it was written, certified amending motion to reject second. There was no first revision. It'll go back to the first revision, and the first revision didn't make a change. So basically goes back to the 2023 cycle. Yep. All right. So that one was passed, and then that was 129, right? Yeah, it was 85, 70-85. That one passed, and then 70-93. 70-93 wanted to add those items in 422.5b, electric ranges, wall-mounted ovens, counter-mounted cooking units, clothes dryers, and microwave ovens. And it was to accept public comment number 1853. That'll have to go back to the code making panel, but again, overwhelmingly supported from the floor. So the CAM to put it in 210.8D passed, and the CAM to add those devices back in to 422.5B passed as well from the floor. So, like I say, it was just an overwhelmingly. It gave me goosebumps. It really did. It did give me goosebumps. All right. I'm gonna fix this light. So hold on. I have the blinds open right now, and I'm going to. It's casting a shadow, and I know it's going to happen pretty soon. It's going to come right here in my face. So let me pause this, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I had to make some adjustments. All right, so Where were we? I think we were at 70-93. That passed. That puts everything back into the appliance list. And then 70-48 passed. What does 48 do? 70-48. Ryan Jackson, 440.14. He removed... Oh, apparently this is an exception that does nothing. The exception number 3 said residential non-fused single-phase disconnecting means rated 250 volts or less and not exceeding 60 amps shall be in sight from the equipment and accessible. And the requirement is that the disconnect means shall be located within sight from and readily accessible from. So it did not. That this CAM passed, and that will remove that exception number 3. Because apparently it's circular and it doesn't do anything. All right, so that was 70-48. Then we got to 70-45. This also passed. 70-45. And this was, Tom Dunn had 2 of these. 70-45 and 70-46. And I know we talked about these last time. And Tom Dunn was there. He made his motion, and it was new material, and everybody supported it. I mean, even the code panel supported it. So very well written, Mr. Dunn. And Tom told me, so he comes up to me and he says, hey, he says, I'm thinking of starting my own YouTube channel. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that'd be awesome. I'll help you. And he's like, yeah, he says, I got to think of a good name. He says, I'm thinking of calling it. Now his name is Tom Dunn. He says, I'm thinking of calling it T. Dunn Plugged. And he wrote it down. T. Dunn Plugged. TDUNPLUGGED. And I said, that's TD Unplugged. It was hilarious. It was a joke, but I still would have supported him. I think he'd be great. Anyway, he had 2 of these, 70-45, Cam, 70-45 and 70-46. Both of those passed. 70-156, 70-156, 156. This is an available fault current marking. So this one wanted to reject the second revision, number 7740, which is on 620.16 Charlie. It wants to, remember, 620 is your elevator control panels. It says the elevator control panel, if it passes, this is what it will say, which it did pass. The elevator control panel shall be legibly marked in the field with the available fault current at its line terminals. The field marking shall include the date the available fault current calculation was performed and shall meet the requirements of 110.21b. The calculation shall be documented and made available to those authorized to design, install, inspect, maintain, or operate the system. It says when modifications to the electrical system occur that affect the available fault current at the elevator control panel, the available fault current shall be verified or recalculated as necessary to ensure the elevator control panel's short circuit current rating is sufficient for the available fault current at the line terminals of the equipment. The required field markings shall be adjusted to reflect the new level of available fault current. So, the code panel removed that language, and their argument was that there was already a marking on the elevator control disconnect. The argument made from the floor, which it was a heck of a good argument. The elevator control panel is downstream of that disconnect, and the challenge that we have with elevator control panels is, unfortunately, they come with very low short circuit current ratings, and trying to get them specified at the right SCCR rating is very difficult. Now, this was Kevin Arnold from Busman's proposal. He spoke and introduced it. There was another lady, an individual who came to the microphone. I did not get her name. Once the results are published, and everything that's said is recorded by a stenographer, so it's all going to be publicly available. What was really interesting was I think she was an installer, if I'm not mistaken, and she relayed that she sees a lot of these that are misapplied because the markings, because you can't get these elevator control panels with the right short circuit current rating. It's very difficult. So she argued heavily to make sure that this CAM passed, and it sure did. So 70-156 for the field marking of available fault current on elevator control panels. It passed. All right, 70-156. Now we get into some electric vehicle stuff. There was a 70-172 was a suggested change to change the definition of electric vehicle. That did not pass, so that failed. 70-162 also failed. This wanted to delete the new Article 624, which is for self-propelled vehicles. And then that was put. I proposed that in the first draft. I was the submitter of that, and that was proposed because we wanted to address. First, it started with marinas and boats, electric, battery-operated boats. We had installations going in where you had electric vehicle chargers charging batteries in a boat, and boats aren't covered by the National Electrical Code because the definition of electric vehicle tells you that it has to ride on the road. So anyway, that failed. The entire article, deletion of the entire article, was not supported by the floor. 70-150, which wanted to 70-1. Oh, that was it. So that was the one, Article 624. Oh, 70-150. Oh, 70-150. Hold on. Let me call that one up because it impacts the entire article. But what he wanted to do was he wanted to add into Article 624 self-propelled, and it said and unpropelled. I'll tell you what this is. There is a manufacturer who basically produces a carport that has solar panels that plugs into a receptacle. For some reason, what he wanted to do was add unpropelled vehicle power transfer system and add portable electricity generating household appliances into the scope of 624. That did not pass. What he has is really an Article 705 system. He's introducing solar panels as a source downstream of the service disconnecting means. They want to just plug it into a standard 20 amp receptacle. And it doesn't look like that was accepted. All right, so then there was a whole group of these 70-114, 70-123, 70-128, 70-132, 70-140, 70-143, 70-164, 70-173, 70-174, 70-175, 70-176, and 70-137. All of these are on 625.4 that wanted to delete the new section called qualified person. None of those passed. They wanted, it was overwhelmingly support from the floor to keep the requirement that this EV equipment be installed by qualified persons. 70-108 passed. And what is that one? 70-108. 70-108. Ooh. This was disconnecting means that are listed for EVSE or... Did it pass? Yes, it did. It passed. This is 625.43b. Disconnects not listed for EVSE or wireless power transfer equipment. I hated to see this one go. Oh, no, it had to go. It said... I'm trying to remember now. Disconnecting means that are not listed for EVSE or wireless power transfer equipment use shall be rated for continuous load or have a nameplate current rating that is 125% of the EVSE or wireless power transfer equipment branch circuit ratings. That's what it said. And I think... I didn't support that one, but it passed. It passed. We ended up supporting it, and I can't remember why. Wasn't needed or something. Well, here's another group. 70-120, 133, 136, 138, 141, 144, 148, 149, 177, and 180. All sought to make changes to section 625.43e, and it wanted to remove the emergency disconnect. That failed considerably. It had a lot of debate. There were fire marshals there. I was very happy to see the turnout of the blue and the whites and the suits, the gold. I was impressed. And it had a lot of debate, a lot of discussion, but that disconnect did not get removed. All right, then the next two were withdrawn, 70-127 and 82. So 70-127 and 70-82 were withdrawn. And that wanted to remove the location of the disconnect distances and readily accessible. So I think those were both Tesla, if I'm not mistaken. Both of those were removed. And then 70-181 failed. What was that one? 70-181. Oh, this was to remove non-locking. It says the language says a non-locking 2-pole 3-wire grounding type receptacle. So it wanted to permit locking type receptacles, and that's the code panel does not want to permit a locking type receptacle. It wants a non-locking receptacle, cord and plug. That failed. That is in 625.44a and b. The next group, 70-147, 151, 58, 77, and 178. All of those failed. Those were looking for... this was 625.54. This is the GFCI requirements for electric vehicles. It wanted to send the entire section back to the 2023 edition. That did not pass the committee. They did not want to send it back. So 625.54 did not pass those changes to send it back to the 2023 edition of the code. The next group was two of them, 134 and 82. This wanted to delete all of B, and I think both of these were pulled. So 70-134 and 70-182 were pulled by the submitters, and that was Brian Nesbitt and Dennis Murphy. And then you had 70-135, 142, 145, and 79. These wanted to delete 625.54b1. Now, what 625.54b1 is the GFCI requirement for just the outlet, 150 volts and below, I think. Yep, 150 volts or less. Wanted to delete B, which is 150 volts or less to ground, GFCI requirements. Honestly, I thought that was going to pass. It did not pass. So now there are 3, I think, TIAs that are being proposed for 625.54b1. I think it's B1 or B. Primarily to permit the use of a special purpose Class C GFCI, which would be compatible with the EV charger. So those failed. And then there was 70-122, which is the last one, which 70-122, this was like a no-brainer. Actually, it wasn't a no-brainer. I'm going to tell you what this was. So this one was luminaires with control inputs that provide emergency illumination in 700.24. In B, it says directly controlled luminaire. The language says what they accepted was where emergency illumination is provided by one or more DCLs by disconnection of their control input by a listed ELCD upon loss of normal power, such DCLs shall not be required to be listed for use in emergency systems. So all of that is fine and dandy, but this last sentence is what was modified. If a DCL has configurable behavior for control input disconnection, it shall be set to provide full luminaire output upon control input disconnection. So what the language in the code said is it has to provide full luminaire output. What the CAM wanted to do was say, instead of full luminaire output, it wanted to say the required emergency illumination level upon control input disconnection. And their argument was that elsewhere in the code, so they use this term required emergency illumination level. In 700.24a, it says where emergency illumination is provided by one or more DCELs that, upon loss of normal power, respond to an external active control signal on their control input from a listed ELCD to establish the required emergency illumination level. Such DCELs shall be listed for the use of emergency system. So they use that same language elsewhere, but for some reason they didn't put it in 700.24b. They required you to go to the maximum full luminaire output. So the floor wasn't having that. They said no to a 700.24. So that was interesting. So that did not pass. All right. Well, those were all the CAMs for the National Electrical Code. Now, what I can do is I can also let me just do this. I'm just going to read through what happened on 855. You may or may not be interested in 855. I'm going to read I'll tell you the CAM number, and I'll be 855 dash a number, and I'm going to do this in the order they were received or progressed through during the code panel during the 2-day meeting in Las Vegas. I'm just going to read the CAM number and tell you whether it was passed, it failed, or if it was pulled, right? So get your paper and pencil out. 855-38 passed. 855-21 pulled. Pulled means it wasn't considered. 855-15 passed. 855-24 failed. 855-35 it passed. 855-29 was pulled. 855-36 I believe passed. You know what? I don't have a good recording on the last ones, so I can't give you all of them. Sorry about that. But that's basically what happened during the annual meeting. Now, depending upon the motion that was made, will tell us whether or not it has to go back to the code panel and get voted on again. Or if it just ends right there. Guaranteed, everything that was rejected from the floor, that's the end of its journey, unless the next phase are any of those appeals that need to be heard from Standards Council. And I believe Standards Council, the next meeting is in August, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so that's where we're at. I hope this gives you some information. Stay tuned to hear and see the published results from NFPA. Those are my notes. Those are the notes that I recorded after the meet or during the meeting. So believe half of what you hear and less of what you see. And double check the NFPA website to see the results of the voting from this past week. Alrighty, sirs, ladies and gentlemen, cats and germs, cats and jammers, I am going to sign off for now. So hopefully you got something out of our discussion today. I apologize for not being able to be live. I am teaching a class. All right, I'll see you next week. Stay safe and please stay healthy.